It can likely be built, but it will be disruptive. It could be there could be safety issues, and then it likely won't actually solve the problem.
Welcome back to Closer Look on this Friday, the 7th day of November. By the way, David Chilton, the wealthy barber, coming up next week on the program. That's exciting. With Michael Friscoletti, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Derek Turner here as well. How are you with money? You good with money? Speaking of the wealthy barber?
I feel like I am. I feel like I don't waste money.
Have you always been? Or?
I think I got better as I got older, but I pay attention to it. I don't. I know my finances, I guess, is the answer. I know where my money is. I know where it's going and where it's supposed to go. And I'm trying to have those conversations with my kids, and I feel like it's working.
How were you when you were younger?
Probably not so good.
Yeah.
I had a part-time job in university. I think I made $80 a week, and it was gone Friday night.
Totally. I was terrible then. I'm marginally better now.
Yeah.
Thank God my wife is, the keeper of the, she's
They say
amazing.
They say money can't buy happiness, and I think that's probably true. But
I call BS on that.
But my point was, if your money situation is a disaster, you're unhappy.
That is true.
Okay,
I would like to find out firsthand if money can buy happiness.
We should ask some of the lottery winners we've talked to in the past.
Right? They say, money can't buy you happiness. You know what? I want to find that out. Somebody's going to give me $50 million.
Yeah.
I think I'll be the judge if I'm going to be happy.
Yeah, I don't think you'd be unhappy. I think you'd be pretty happy.
I would be a lot of things. Unhappy is not one of them.
There's the first question for Mr. Chilton when he comes on the program.
All right.
Speaking of money, a lot of money talk this week. We had the fall economic statement and the legislature at Queen's Park.
Yep.
A lot of discussion about that. The federal budget was tabled. We talked about that with our team at the Trillium and at the Parliament today. On Thursday, I think it's going to go into next week, maybe the week after, to see if the budget passes and all the different amendments that are being proposed. So that's fascinating. And it's interesting to just see because the details are still trickling out. We know the budget, but it's 490 pages, and people are still analyzing different parts of it, what's going to be good about it, what's going to be bad about it.
I wouldn't have the bandwidth to go through a document that large. No, I would not. Like squirrel, I'm gone.
Yeah, but it just shows everyone has different interests and different talents to be able to find those things. And then speaking of money again, yesterday the Ford government revealed that they have awarded the feasibility study contract for the tunnel under Highway 401, which is a topic we've talked about on this show.
Yes.
So essentially the government's going to spend $9.1 million to just see if it's feasible.
Can you imagine?
To build this tunnel. It's a lot of money. You would be happy with 9.1. You should have put in for the contract.
You know what? I would not be spending $9.1 million on a feasibility study to see if I could dig a tunnel under the 401.
Well, it's easy to laugh at because it's such a big idea, right? It's easy to giggle about it, and the opposition has had some obviously pointed words about it. But the Ford government believes this is a key thing. So just some details. They've awarded the contract to WSP Canada Inc. for this feasibility study. It's $9.1 million. And a spokesperson for the transportation minister said, our government is making significant progress on the transformational project to build a tunnel under Highway 401 that will get people and goods moving across the province faster. And as we've kind of discussed before in the show, they're kind of way ahead of the game, right? They're doing a feasibility study, but the Ford government seems pretty bent on that this is going to be their plan. And as Doug Ford himself said, he'll be long dead by the time this is done, if it's ever done. But this is their big project. They've pitched the Carney government to make it one of the legacy projects, one of the big driving projects to undertake. So now we have this feasibility study that's underway. It's a good time to revisit part of the podcast episode we did a couple months ago with Maddie Simiaticki, who's University of Toronto planning professor, and Jessica Smith-Cross, the editor-in-chief at the Trillium at Queen's Park. Let's start with that today. They chatted about it. We asked them some of the same questions that we still have today about this feasibility study. Let's listen to that part of the conversation. Would Doug Ford react well to other suggestions, or are we at the point now where this is going to be the way we go no matter what?
It's really interesting. There's a huge disconnect here. So the government issued this request for proposals for a feasibility study. It's incredibly detailed. It's put together by civil servants, and it talks about studying the feasibility of the tunnel and other options to deal with congestion, not necessarily a tunnel. It wouldn't rule out elevated lanes. It looks at things in two ways. Can you add more lanes to this highway, or can you do other things that don't add lanes to the highway that would still reduce congestion? And this incredibly detailed thing also implicitly acknowledges that the tunnel itself might not be feasible. So the government's own request for this private people to do this study says, this might not actually work. And if it doesn't work, what are you going to propose instead? So they're going to pay a bunch of money to a private company to do this study that acknowledges this might not be possible at all. Well, the premier is standing up there being like, oh yeah, 100%, we're doing this. It's going to be like this. And I know that I'll be dead, by the way, he says. I'll be pushing it in tulips by the time it's actually done. So it's a little bizarre to see that disconnect between the civil service doing their work on this idea that might get built and what the premier says at press conferences.
All right, let's talk about that a little more, Professor, in terms of feasibility. Is it actually feasible from an engineering perspective to pull this off? And what about things like safety concerns?
So I think we can start from the basic premise that this is likely buildable, that you likely could build a tunnel of this length in this location. We have done, in human history, we've done quite remarkable feats of engineering. There are long tunnels. There are very long bridges. We built an international space station. We should be able to build this tunnel. The question isn't just can we build it and it has to be done safely. The question is, should we? Does this actually solve the congestion problem? How much does it cost? And are there better alternatives that we could address this issue at a lower cost? And interestingly, the request for proposals that was put together by the civil service actually is a very professional job. It's a good request for proposals. It looks at various alternatives and it sketches those out. But what you typically see in these circumstances is that you also have a parallel political process that's playing out, that this is being discussed in the political realm around congestion mitigation. This is very much speaking to a large portion of the Greater Toronto population who drives, who's frustrated with congestion, who's stuck in traffic, and wants someone up there fighting for them saying, I will cut the gridlock. And these are happening in parallel. Even if it's not the best solution, we're already moving to implementation before we even know if this is both feasible at an appropriate cost and whether it will actually solve the problem.
It's a great point, Maddie. I want to also ask you, when I hear about this, I keep thinking of Boston. If I remember right, Boston built some big tunnel in the middle of town. And I remember I was actually visiting there maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And the depression on everyone's face when they would talk about this tunnel, it felt like it took 100 years to build and cost just infinitely more money than it was supposed to. That's kind of the worry for me here. I mean, you could say, yeah, we don't know how much it's going to cost, but just the thought of starting a project, would this ever even finish?
We know that the costs of this are going to be staggering, that we are going to be putting the whole province's investment in infrastructure into this, a project of this scale, and the amount of time and the amount of disruption too. Keep in mind, even when you're tunneling underneath and people have this impression that it's impact free, all of the dirt that you're tunneling out has to come out somewhere. And so there will be trucks everywhere. There are risks of sinkholes, which we've seen in places like Ottawa where they were tunneling under downtown. That can be disruptive and cause safety issues. So it could be done. It can likely be built, but it will be disruptive. It could be there could be safety issues. And then it likely won't actually solve the problem. So I think these are really how we have to be thinking about it. But we're here now. We should study all the options and then we figure out how to move forward.
Just speaking of the politics, what have the opposition parties been saying about this every time it comes up?
They're anti-tunnel. Nobody is on side with Doug Ford on this in the legislature. They have preferred other options. Both the opposition parties have talked at various points about buying back the tolled highway, the 407, and then either opening it up to everybody or diverting truck traffic to it is one of their preferred options. And also politically, it's not just inside the legislature, but outside that counts. We did some polling on the tunnel idea after the premier first came out and announced it. And it wasn't actually immediately incredibly popular. A lot of people, I think, Frisco had the same view as you. There's a lot of fear about how disruptive this was going to be. It wasn't necessarily a vote winner, but that didn't turn off the premier, who's continued to talk about it, put it in their last campaign platform, and was reelected. But immediately, a lot of people seem to be expressing through this poll their skepticism of the whole thing.
Very interesting.
Maddie, how does building more lanes make congestion worse, not better?
There's a phenomenon of induced demand that as you add more lanes, what tends to happen is people tend to want to drive more. They tend to want to fill that space. They tend to move further away from where they work or where the majority of their trips are going, and they tend to travel during peak periods rather than spreading those trips off peak when there's more congestion. So this phenomenon of induced demand tends to very quickly fill up new lane space. And also, what you'll find is even if we build a tunnel under the 401, all the vehicles have to get off of that highway, out of that tunnel, and they have to go somewhere. And the adjacent roads are not getting any bigger. So whether they go onto the Don Valley Parkway, which is already a parking lot, whether they go onto the 427, whether they go onto local arterial roads and then into neighborhoods, the streets in all of those places are not getting bigger. So it's essentially like you're expanding the outer ends of a funnel without making the spigot any bigger. And so really what you'll just see is further backlogs that it'll move the clogs just around the system to other places.
Okay, so we know that Maddie says that there's lots of components to look at, lots of different angles. Jess is saying that reader data from the Trillium, not really in support of this, but hey, let's spend $9.1 million for something that at least on the surface appears as though people aren't really digging at this point.
And as Jess pointed out too, they ran the election on this. They talked about the 401 tunnel election, and Ford won a landslide. So, there are obviously some voters out there who think this is a good idea. The other thing that they did talk about in that episode, which we didn't run in the clip, was the idea that it's a big province, and the people who are going to benefit from this, however kilometer tunnel this is in the GT right in Toronto, is not the whole province. There's people who are worried about the highways in Northern Ontario. There are people worried about healthcare in other parts of the province. There's all kinds of things there are all kinds of people. There are millions of Ontarians who will never go in this tunnel should it ever be built. So it's not really one of those issues that kind of galvanizes the whole province where they're like, yes. So it's not like it's like we're going to get every Ontarian a family physician, for example. This is, I don't remember the last time. I was on the 401 last year, maybe.
Not something you'd have on your bingo card to spend billions and billions of dollars on.
No. I mean, definitely a legacy. I guess they would name it the Doug Ford Tunnel if it's done. And again, I know it sounds like, we're joking and we're being facetious. I'm not an expert. I'm not an engineer. Maybe they will build this tunnel. I don't know. But, you're going to spend $9 million on a feasibility study. You're going to get some pretty detailed answers on whether you can actually do this from an engineering perspective, from a safety perspective, whether this is the best use of taxpayer money at a time when taxpayer money is as tight as ever. The other interesting thing is a couple of weeks after we did this interview, Marit Stiles, the leader of the NDP, was in Sault Ste. Marie, and she joined us down here in the studio. I believe she was our first in-studio guest.
She was,
And just so everyone knows, all the leaders are invited. It's an open invitation.
Always.
It's not just Marit.
No.
But you did ask Marit about the 401 tunnel.
Yeah, we did. We were talking about distractions from the Ford government, specifically as it related to some of the things going on, skills development fund, Greenbelt, all that stuff. And we simply said, is this another distraction from the Ford government? Your thoughts on the 401 tunnel? Another distraction? Or,
I don't understand the Premier's obsession with this. I mean, everything we know now is that it's a terrible idea. All the experts have already told them multiple times that this will not work, that it's not the best way to address there are real congestion issues around the GTA, and that is important for our economy. Mm-hmm. But, the solutions are not giant tunnel under a big highway in a place where it's just never going to work. This is like a biggest boondoggle. So, what I want to see is he was asked by the Prime Minister, for some nation building projects.
Right.
He included that tunnel as one of them. He included that spa in downtown Toronto as one of them. Why don't we talk about housing? Affordable housing for people. Why don't we talk about, roads? Why don't we talk about northern roads?
Right.
I mean, my goodness. Let's talk about how we could save some actual lives in northern Ontario, by the way, by fixing up our highways, having safer highways. I think, again, the government's priorities are all wrong. And I always look at those situations. I think, who's actually making money off it? Because increasingly, that's what I do is follow the dollars. Mm-hmm. Which lobbyists, which private companies are going to make all the money off that? That's what's concerning me.
I'll say this. I love the out-of-the-box thinking. Never in a million years, and God knows it may take that long to build it, but would you ever think that the government would think to build a tunnel under, the 401 highway?
It's not out of the box thinking. It's in the tunnels thinking. in the box.
Touche.
In the
Yes.
box thinking. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. We're gonna have lots of different opinions. I'm sure we need to get a couple, like a panel of engineers on
Yes.
the show to talk about
Much smarter than us.
what's actually feasible and what's actually better. But I can tell you this. If Doug Ford's going to be dead by the time it's done, I think we'll be dead by the time we finish covering this. So we're going to keep covering this story. It is a talker.
Yes,
people are definitely on people's mind. And for me, the key number will be when this feasibility study comes back and says it's going to cost X billion dollars to build. That'll be
start a pool.
Yeah, that's right. That'll be the crunch, because it's going to tell you how much it's going to cost, and then at the end, if they actually go through that, it's going to cost way more money than that.
I couldn't imagine.
I'll tell you this. If I do go to Toronto, the next time in Toronto, I'm going to drive on the 401 just to experience the traffic.
Yes.
I'm going to make my way to whatever Marriott hotel is putting Addison Barger's pull-out couch on display. Or which is it, Schneider's pull-out couch?
Isn't that unbelievable? What a story.
Yeah, so this is just we should have done the show about this. So Addison Barger, of course, famously hit that big grand slam in Game 1 of the World Series for the Blue Jays. And it came out later that he spent the night before sleeping on his teammates'
David Schneider's couch.
Yeah, pull-out couch, because his family was using his place.
Yeah.
And I think there's a photo on social media of him like in the bed, covers, laptop,
Tablet phone.
Like, what is he doing? Like, is he running his business? What's he doing the night before the World Series on his laptop?
Do a little Facebook marketplace.
Shouldn't he be like working out or something? But then I guess because he hit the whole grand slam, he went and slept there again the next
did the
night,
same
right?
thing.
And then they lost game 2. So,
But that speaks to the kind of guy that he is.
Yes.
Before the World Series, his family comes into town. He's like, no, you guys have the house and the beds. I'll go to Davis's hotel room and sleep on his very uncomfortable pull-out sofa.
I think that's what endeared a lot of people to the Jays. It's just they seem like group of normal guys. And I think we forget too, like, people put the bright cameras in their face to do a scrum with them in the locker room. But then when that's over, they still got to live their life. They have they have families coming to watch the game too, just like you would that time you made the World Series.
Yeah. I remember 2015 after Bautista hit the bat flip home run. There was video of him leaving Rogers Center on his electric scooter going to his condo.
Was there?
Backpack on, puffer coat, scooter.
He's got to go home.
Yeah.
He's not going to stay there.
I know, but they're just everyday people, right? They put their pants on one leg at a time.
Yeah, and sleep in the bed the same as everybody else.
Some sleep in sofa beds.
It's great.
Hotels.
Which Marriott? I guess it's in Toronto, this Marriott.
It would be the one where the Rogers Center is. What do they call it? The City Center Marriott?
Yes, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Where for $10,000 a night, you too can get a field view room during the World Series.
That's great. Oh yeah, this is the Rogers Center Hotel.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
It's called the Marriott. Was it always a Marriott?
It's I don't know if it's always been a Marriott. It is
now. It is a Marriott.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And I've stayed there.
Did you? But
And I did not pay $10,000.
And you didn't sleep on the pull-out couch.
I did not sleep on the pull-out couch. But we did have a field view. It was before the season started. They were actually finishing the renovations. Funny story. They're finishing the renovations. This would have been back in April. And what we didn't know was they leave all the lights on in the stadium. So try to go to sleep with stadium lights on.
No way.
We're laying in bed like, are they ever going to shut those damn things off?
Why do they use so much power? That's a waste.
Well, they had construction workers working around the clock.
Oh, I see. Could you see the whole field? By the time you look down, can you not see half a center field, for example?
No, it was a pretty good view from the room that we were in, yeah.
All right. Well, we've totally gone off topic.
Bright lights.
Yeah.
All right.
We've gone way off topic.
Closer look at villagemedia.ca. If you'd like to reach out, we'd love for you to do that. We would also love for you to subscribe to our newsletter. We send it out 6 days a week. Closerlookpodcast.ca. Do it today. Listen, have a fantastic weekend. We appreciate your time, as always, this week. We know you have lots of choices and places to go, and we truly appreciate the fact that you make ours one of your stops. So thank you for that. Tonight's show produced, as always, by Derek Turner. For Michael Friscolanti, our editor-in-chief here at Village Media, I'm Scott Sexsmith. Have a great weekend. We'll see you Monday at 7 right here on Closer Look.
Frisco and Scott's Wardrobe provided in part by Moores, Sault Ste. Marie.